good evening, everybody. Here, this the third episode of the Great North Pagan Podcast here, November 17th on a Thursday evening here. I'm Thomas Punton, as you always well known, and on to my right, or 20 miles away on my right, filling in for Grant is my dear sis Joy.
Hello.
Grant couldn't make it because he's got such a busy schedule, bless him, but hopefully he'll be back on next episode here. Well, tonight we're going to be discussing about how paganism and Wicca has been in politics and in the community. And to help us out here, coming all the way up from Granville, North Dakota, is Tess Mogard. Give her a warm welcome.
Woo woo!
How you doing? Everyone. How you doing?
Hello.
I'm good. How are both of you? Thanks for having me.
No problem.
I am fabulous. How are you?
Marvelous, darling.
Well, why don't you tell the audience out there in the mystical realm of the internet a little bit about yourself, Tess?
Okay. Well, my actual name is Theresa Mogard. Most people just call me Tess. I was born Theresa Estridge at Cape Canaveral, Florida. My parents moved me to Toledo, Ohio at just 2 months old, where I grew up on the east side of Toledo. And I learned that if a person can survive the east side of Toledo, you can survive anything. I moved out to North Dakota from Indiana, where I'd spent the better part of my adult life, minus a year I spent in Germany, and I became Reverend Crying Moon. That's just after I moved to North Dakota. And we'll get into that, why that later, but nowadays I just go by the less formal nickname of Tess, and I'm a city councilman for Granville, North Dakota, working hard to help grow our little town and save our post office.
Which we just saw you had been just in the news there recently.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we've been getting a lot of coverage for it. I hope the post office officials are paying attention.
I hope so too. It's something you said about that you survived the east side of Toledo, because they say a lot of times that how we could survive winter here in North Dakota.
Yeah, North Dakota winters are a lot worse than Toledo.
Yeah.
My first winter here, it hit negative 76. Now, granted, that was with the wind chill, but without the wind chill, it was negative 69. That's impressive.
That is very impressive.
Yep.
I ain't never seen that before. I thought I was going to freeze to death my first winter.
Well, that's I think it's just, so long as you do the basic survival methods, I think it's just fine. I think people, especially me, to blow that way too out of proportion. But
it's just the survival methods are not the same.
Yeah. Yes, I agree, Tess. I so agree.
Well, anyway, so since you're on the Pagan Podcast, so how about you tell how long you've studied the pagan arts?
Well, I was raised pagan. My parents didn't realize what they were doing, though. My mother is a second generation off the reservation, and all she knew is that this is how she was raised, and so this is how she was going to raise her children. But in our culture was lost because of our tribe embracing Christianity in order to assimilate into the new society and not be stamped out. I mean, if you didn't embrace Christianity, you were done.
Yep.
Yeah.
That was just the way it was. And after so many generations, they didn't know why they did things the way they did them. That's just the way they did them. So I spent my childhood in the woods collecting berries, and when I was old enough and go out and collect mushrooms, Mom taught us the herbs that could be collected and all matters of things made from them, including poultices. It's amazing, even in Toledo, the amount of berries and herbs that can be found in little patches of woods by the railroad tracks, even elderberries.
Oh.
And
Are most of them edible?
Yeah, I mean, you've got blackberries, raspberries, elderberries, and there was just so many. Of course, it was dangerous, though, because of the hobos and the homeless people, so I was never allowed to go without adult supervision, but still, we went. There was also spearmint that grew wild, and trying to remember, all of a sudden I just got a flash of remembering swallowing my first bug.
Ooh, num num.
That'll put hair on your chest.
So, well, we were the freaks of the east side of Toledo because our entire backyard was a garden. We didn't have a stitch of grass to play on. We went spring, summer, and fall working in the garden and learning how to can, and that's, of course, if we wanted to eat that winter. And that was exactly how it was put to us.
Wow.
My first spell casting was taught to me as a young child. I was probably like, I don't know, somewhere between 5 and 7. It's been a lot of years ago, so it's hard to remember. Mom would tell us to write out our Christmas list to Santa and burn it so that the ashes could fly off to him to the North Pole, and he'd be able to put it all back together and read it to us if we wished hard enough while we were burning it and visualizing it going up through the flames and the chimney and off through the sky onward to the North Pole.
Wow.
Now, as a kid, I just thought that was so neat. As an adult, I recognized it as what it was.
Yeah.
It was very simplistic spellcasting. And she taught us that when we were upset, that we needed to write out everything on paper that was bothering us, and then put every ounce of that negative energy into it as we ripped the paper to shreds, and visualize that negative energy dissipating every time the paper was ripped a little bit smaller. And childhood for me was magical, even being in the big city. I definitely wasn't like other children. When I was 14, I found a book on witchcraft from our local library, and it was beyond anything I had ever learned, and it gave instruction on how to create an entire miniature world in a crystal bowl. It honestly scared the tar out of me. It did. I mean, it was like playing God, and I wasn't about to go there. So I set aside my pagan path until I was 27 when I discovered Wicca. My eyes were open and I embraced my roots, and the adventure began. I've had 2 high priestesses through the years, one in Indiana and one in Minnesota. I found that having multiple teachers was a really great benefit because you realize that people can see things very, very differently. For someone just starting in the path, you don't always realize that. You just, you see your high priestess as being up on a pedestal, and she just knows everything, and I had a lot of learning to do. And then came the internet. Enough said.
Yay! Which is, I think a lot of us are kind of thankful for the internet because it seems like our surroundings only went so far.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you don't realize how many different points of view are out there until you really get on and start conversing with people and exchanging ideas, and it's amazing how many different views, even within paganism.
Exactly. So then, since we're talking about, how pagans can help the community, what have you done thus far after deciding to go the pagan path? Have you done to the community?
Well, I've had great pride in having started the second pagan church in North Dakota. The first had been disbanded for so long that it had been all but forgotten. I started the church because there was no place for pagans to go where they could have their hand fastings, funerals, wickenings, or any other event that was deeply meaningful. It was a total travesty. I've seen funerals for children that visitation services had to be held across the street from the funeral home in the yard of someone that just cared, because Native American pipe ceremonies aren't allowed on the premises. That was devastating for the family.
Jeez.
Yeah.
And then I was personally told that I couldn't hold my hand fasting at a location that I had already rented because they were Christian and wouldn't have that kind of a ritual taking place in their establishment. And there simply had to be a place for pagans as well, as anyone that doesn't conform to the Christian religion. Mm-hmm. So Nature Sanctuary was born and was ran out of our home for 4 years. During that time, we as a group collected canned goods on a weekly basis and donated them to our local food pantry. And at least once a summer, we'd walk through our community and do a cleanup for them. Of course, we also held classes and rituals on a regular basis. While the sanctuary was active, I developed a child protection program that can be adopted by any group to protect their children from predators that can lurk within groups. And the thing is that, nowadays they've got all these different psychological testings and everything and criminal background checks before you can have anything to do with, children. And for a home-based church, that's just, it's not practical. Nobody can afford that.
Yeah.
So what we put together was common sense practices that any group that can put into place while protecting the group itself from charges should someone make a horribly bad choice. And, that's huge too, because, if, we put 4 years worth of our lives into this group, into the church. And for someone to turn around and make a bad choice and have it jeopardize all the hard work that we had done was just unthinkable.
Because then I remember once you told me that you had like a situation that happened once and the city of Granville felt you guys did it the right way.
Right, exactly. We weren't about to sweep anything under the rug. If someone makes a bad choice, they make a bad choice, and they're responsible for that bad choice.
Mm-hmm.
And, not everybody does, though. Honestly, I took a lot of flack from the pagan community surrounding us. There's a lot of people to this day that won't speak to me because of it. And that's okay, because I am not about to harbor and tolerate behavior in that manner that is going to, most importantly, jeopardize the safety of a child.
Exactly.
Right, harm none.
Yep.
Yeah, and secondly, harm the group that they've decided to take advantage of.
Exactly.
So you wouldn't think that people would get angry about that, but apparently they thought we should just take them out back and beat the tar out of them. It doesn't work that way in a civilized society.
No.
So, at any rate, let's see, I think this is probably the one achievement that I'm most proud of. Because, children mean everything to me, but the sanctity of the work that we're trying to do in the pagan community is important too. Mm-hmm. And with this program, we're able to effectively protect both with minimal effort. Essentially, you fill out we have a form that gets given to the parents, and the parents have to sign it. You do not let your children go with anyone outside of the walls of this church. If you do, you're doing this of your own accord, and the church won't be held responsible for it. And then as well, if a child is in our church, they will not be left alone in a room with any one adult. By having at least 2 adults in the room at all times, you're protecting yourself from charges.
Exactly.
Right. You're covering your butt along with helping cover the other adult's butt, so to speak.
That way you don't have like a he said, she said sort of thing that could happen. And
Exactly. So just some common sense practices that don't involve a $300 psychological workup and criminal background checks. And everything's good.
Oh.
But the church was passed on to a loving and caring group in Fargo.
Anybody we know of?
The old ways. That was when we no longer had the energy to continue, and the interest in our area seemed to die out. But energy never dies; it constantly transfers. So, a lot of loving energy from the grove of the old ways has gone on with it now as well. And now we're looking at 7 years.
Yeah.
That the church has been going.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
I'm also proud to have officiated over the very first wedding in history in the Medicine Wheel Circle in Valley City, North Dakota. And thank you, Thomas, for letting me preside over that.
Yeah, I was going to say, anybody we know of?
It was a magical day. It really was.
It was.
The rain stopped, cue and all.
it felt like, especially with the fact that, where that medicine wheel was at is also where, when Dr. Joseph Stickler that built it, and for anyone that doesn't know about it, Dr. Joseph Stickler is an astronomy teacher at Valley City State University, and his 1992 astronomy class had built this Native American medicine wheel, a recreation of the ones that you can find like out in Montana. And what's ironic also is that where they built it is also near some Native American burial grounds that they discovered when they built I-94. And so it felt like, in a sense, when we were holding that handfasting, there was a bigger audience than what there was.
Oh, and there was. Cool. There was, for sure. And then also, I've been tapped. This is like probably my crowning achievement, I think. I was tapped by Janet Farrar, who is the co-author of The Witch's Bible, as a worthy inductee into the Covenant of the Goddess.
Oh, wow.
That's a culmination of a lot of years of hard work and dedication, and just to have it, even set aside the fact that I was tapped as a worthy inductee into the Covenant of the Goddess, just to be recognized by someone so high up in the pagan community.
Mm-hmm.
It was just, it actually brought a tear to my eye. It was like, wow, I did it.
Well, that just shows that all that hard work finally paid off, that that you felt like you've made that difference. Like, It's a Wonderful Life, in a sense.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, now back in the first episode, I remember asking Sarah this question, that of how much progress that pagans have been, respected and recognized. Because 10 years ago, she was on the front lines for pagan rights in Fargo. And that she felt, we've made some headway. So what do you think? How much have you seen that pagans have made for progress?
We as pagans live and have lived on the fringes of society for centuries. In today's democratic society, tolerance is the law, and we're being tolerated, if not accepted, on levels that have remained unseen since before Christ, when paganism was the standard. And at this time, we're doing it better than ever. There's several reasons that we're succeeding as never before. We've been showing ourselves as reasonable, rational people who believe in the divine, whatever a person's version of that may be, and because we organize. We have religious freedom in this country, but it's only freedom if you bother to take hold and use it. Otherwise, it's just words on paper that make no difference at all. And by organizing and planning events and functions like the Pagan Pride Days down in Fargo, and organizing our groups, we make that stand for our rights as pagans. The general populace seems to have more respect for us, just for the fact that we can figure out how to organize and rally at all. The more we do this, the better we're going to get at it, and the more legitimacy we lend ourselves.
I hate to interrupt at that point. It reminds me when me and Joy were down in the Pagan Pride Day down in the Twin Cities. Mm-hmm. And remember, Joy, when we went to the Dairy Queen and that one guy went up to you?
Yep.
And he said, well, what do you pagans have to be so proud about?
And what did I do? I snapped into it and rattled at least 4 things off, and he got really quiet. All the other people that were attentively listening to him turned and looked at me and smiled.
That's awesome.
I'm like, you're not going to make me look like a fool in public, buddy. I don't think so.
No doubt.
And my last comment to him was, what do you do in your religion for your community? And he couldn't say anything. And everybody just kind of smiled that smile and kind of looked at him and turned away.
That's fantastic. And it's true. A lot of people go to church on Sundays, yep, and that's the extent of it. Mm-hmm. If they do that. So there is a lot of things to be proud of being pagan.
Exactly.
Even the solitary pagans go out of their way to try and do things for the earth. Everybody does their own little part, And
it's not like as if we're trying to show off or any bit. We're just showing this is what we're doing. We're trying to help out.
Right. It's doing the right thing because it's the right thing to do. And as we do more good in our communities, in the name of the Lord and Lady, in the better name, we're giving paganism.
Exactly.
So, though we're struggling to enter the mainstream, we're certainly making strides as being seen as reasonable and rational people who want to help and be productive parts of our community. Pagans are holding political office in our communities, and in the United Nations are being promoted by leading figures and organizations such as former Vice President Albert Gore, broadcaster Ted Turner, and the United Nations and its various NGOs, which is it's the religious entities.
I was almost shocked to say Ted Turner's pagan, but of course, then again, being the fact he was creator of Captain Planet, with the rings almost, calling the circle, I guess I shouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, exactly. Al Gore's book, The Earth in Balance, is just one of the many books that unabashedly claims the deity of Earth. And it blames the falling away from the pagan god on the environmentally unfriendly followers of other religions. We'll just say that. The United Nations has been extremely successful in infusing our green religion into an international governmental body that is an increasing effect and control over all of our lives. So, we as pagans have way more of an effect than most people would think on an everyday basis.
Well, and because then I won't name beliefs, but there's some other beliefs that feel we should just use the earth for that is. We're going to be going elsewhere. Well,
right.
We only got this one world. It's best we take care of it.
Right. Now, I'm a city councilman. I was appointed by our mayor, and the spring will be my first election. A religion that was not an issue for me becoming a city councilman. Has not been an issue since I've been on the board at all, and I hope that it stays that way. Religion shouldn't have a part in politics. Our town seems more concerned with having anyone, who's willing to step up and help lead this town into the future. It's really hard to get people to want to make this kind of a commitment to their community because, to be brutally honest, it pays in our town $50 a month, payable in June annually. That's peanuts.
Wow.
And it's that way in most of the communities in North Dakota, believe it or not. Mm-hmm. I've looked at the North Dakota League of Cities. They have a survey of what all the different people make across the board in the smaller cities, and I've seen it go as low as $30 a month.
As my father had worked for the city of Page when I was growing up, I bet he would agree on that too.
Yeah,
that's a tank of gas, man.
Yeah.
Well, with it payable annually, just once a year in June, it's $600 towards vacation.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's that way in most communities, but I'm all about service to my community, so I stepped up as a person, and as a person, I was accepted, not as a pagan. And they know I'm pagan, but it's just besides the point. They need somebody that cares. And I'd encourage more pagans to put themselves out there. It's not as scary as you think, When it comes down to it, they don't want to touch the religion aspect of it because it's just too messy. And you have religious freedom. It's protected. Mm-hmm. And so, we're no longer going to be forced into the darkness. There's nothing wrong with who we are and what we believe in or stand for. We'll stand up with pride and do our best to make the world a better place to leave our children. Progress has become our middle name.
And I think it's something because one of the reasons also doing this episode was that there was an incident that happened over in California where this inmate who was pagan wanted to practice his belief, and they would not let him. And then it then eventually let the state of California, with the help of this conservative Christian group called the Well Builders, try to make Wicca and neo-paganism a second-class religion. Well, thankfully, there was a petition that was signed and it got the 5,000 signatures needed by the due date to prevent that from happening.
Yep, that was extraordinary.
Yeah, and I mean, I just think it's something, you know, to see like these groups that keep on saying that, well, we could, you know, take over the world, or you know, we could prevent one group from not happening. It's like, the Constitution is there for a reason. That's where that First Amendment is, to make sure we all are equal.
Yep.
And that's very wonderful that, you know, Tess, that you're making that effort, the city, you know, making that town, the city, a better place. You know, that they look past, you know, what you are believing in. That you're here on business to get the job done.
Right, and they don't always like what I have to say.
Yeah.
But you know, I'm not just there as a pagan. I'm not just there as a businessman. I'm there on behalf of the people that live in our town. So I bring to it, or at least I try to bring to it, a perspective of, if I was sitting at home and I was hearing about this going on, how would I feel as a tax-paying citizen?
Exactly.
You know, so they don't always like what I have to say. But it's nice to be in the seat where they at least have to listen.
And that's, I think, for a lot of us, that we sit here and think that, you know, that I wish I could do something, wish I could make a change. You know, something we'll kind of touch upon a little bit later here, but it does feel like a refreshing feeling that, you know, now my voice is being heard.
Yeah, exactly. It is. It's I can't even describe it until you get there and you're sitting in that chair and you realize that you are a part of whether it goes or it falls.
Wow.
You know, it's like, wow, okay, it's a big responsibility. But it is very, very rewarding.
Amazing. Absolutely amazing. Well,
awesome job, Tess.
Yeah.
Awesome job.
Well, now that we explored, you know, what you've done, you know, what do you think needs to be improved for us pagans to do more in the community that what we've done thus far?
At this point, we need more common sense and public image. It really seems to be lacking on all sides in far too many cases. Take Jonathan the Impaler Sharkey, for instance. Anybody remember him?
I don't remember him.
No? He ran for governor in Minnesota the last election.
Really?
They found out he had a warrant for his arrest in Indiana, so in mid-election he got hauled off to Indiana to face his charges.
Oh, jeez!
Wow.
Yeah.
Way to go, dude.
I know, right? So he ran for governor in Minnesota. He's also ran for the Senate, and he placed his bid for the president, I think, like 3 times now, the last time being just in 2010, and I think he's already dropped his bid for this election.
Well,
he's Luciferian,
and for those of us who don't know, what's Luciferian?
Luciferian is another branch of paganism. They believe in their deity Lucifer, and in his particular case, his goddess is Hecate.
Okay.
So, you know, he is very pagan, but, you know, and this is not to say anything against Luciferians, but this particular individual kind of gives paganism a little bit of a bad name. He's got a thing for teenage girls that gets him into a lot of trouble with the law. His idea for fighting crime is to torture and impale criminals.
Oh, lovely.
Nice.
He's threatened to impale President George W. Bush.
Ooh, I'd like to see that.
And don't throw the shoe, just impale him. Yeah.
Where's the popcorn?
I didn't say that. And he's kept on the Secret Service's radar because of it. And he believes that the poor should get free medical and dental paid for by the sales of legalized marijuana and prostitution. Really?
I'm sorry.
He's a class act of himself.
Yeah. And so, I don't know about the other pagans out there. I can only speak for myself, but I don't much appreciate pagans being put out there in that kind of light.
He sounds like the reincarnation of who was the first person that thought he was Dracula, Vlad the Impaler, or who was it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's who he's naming himself after.
Oh my goodness!
He was a professional wrestler. If you look him up, he got his claim to fame being a short-term professional wrestler.
So, he's just trying to look like Jesse the Ventura body.
Exactly.
Well, for all the wrong reasons.
Right.
Awesome.
Right. So, pagans just don't need to be out there in that kind of light. He's really harming the pagan community. If a person has that extreme of behavior and views, maybe they should just consider being a closet pagan for the betterment of the whole community. Honestly.
Closet?
Stay in the closet, okay, please?
Yeah.
On the other side of that, you've got this media that sensationalizes these paranoid mindsets and propagates the phobias concerning pagans. They're the first to jump on, this terrible pagan, and it gives us all a bad name.
Yeah.
Right.
And, to them I say there are extremists in every group out there, even Christianity. I mean, Pat Robertson for president wasn't going to go any further than Sharky's campaign, even with all of his 700 Club money.
Yeah, he was a little scary.
Yeah, very. So, just use some common sense. Keep religion out of politics. It doesn't belong there. Make the best decisions for your community because it's the best decision for the community as a whole and for the earth. And not because of the political soapbox that you feel you need to put yourself up on while crying the persecution of pagans.
Yeah, exactly. Because I think that's the problem that I've heard with some pagans as well is they'll go hard on Christians just because they were hard on pagans, and I think, well, then you're just being that of what you hate.
Yeah, exactly.
Because I have friends that are full blood Christians online, and they respect me for being pagan and that, and I think for those that are doing Christianity right, then I'm like, they're doing for what they're doing it for. They're just doing it for betterment of themselves, and I say, hey, more power to you.
Well,
exactly.
It's interesting that I've been in paganism for a while too, and my dad, more than about a year now, he started going back to church. He's Christian, and he really was didn't really want to tell me that he was going back to church, and my mom was kind of explained it to me. She's like, he's scared that you'll be mad at him, and I'm like, really? So my dad came out and he was all kind of dressed up Sunday morning, and I said, hey, where are you going? And he goes, I'm just going to go outside for a little bit. And I said, well, you want me to go with you? And he goes, no, I'm just going to go by myself. My dad and I, we always do stuff together whenever we're together. And so I said, well, you're all dressed up. Where are you going? And he just kind of looked at my mom, and he kind of he looked like a little kid that had a secret and he didn't want to confess. So of course, me being the little snarky person I am, I kept after my dad, and finally he goes, well, I started going back to church. And I said, really? And he goes, yeah. And I said, that's awesome. And he looked at me like I had just given him the best gift ever. Oh. And I told him, I said, well, maybe sometime I'll go with you. I said, I'm not going to go up and take communion. I said, but that doesn't mean I can't go and pray also. And he was so surprised. I mean, I couldn't believe it. I was just like, why would you not think that I wouldn't be happy for you if you're following something that lifts your spirit? I said, now, if you were following something negative, then I'd have something to say, but that's still your choice.
Exactly.
I agree wholeheartedly. I mean, my mother went into a bout where she decided to be Mormon for a while. That was interesting. Mm-hmm. But I promise you, I went to Tabernacle with her.
Really?
Yes, I did.
Wow.
Well,
Yeah.
and I remember when Courtney went Catholic, was doing Catholic for a bit, and one time I actually went with her to the Catholic church here in Castleton, and I kind of felt in a sense, because at the time I was being high priest of the Grove of the Old Ways, and I was doing it kind of almost like in a sense like diplomacy in a sense, as well as respect for like the Catholic Church.
Mm-hmm.
No kidding.
But that's why I think it is I see it that I don't see it that our belief does not exist. I've kind of always have felt that all kind of like that South Park episode where Stan finds out that all the different deities actually do exist, like the Jesus Christ, Moses, kind of like it's like a Justice League. That's how I've always have seen it.
That's
Yep.
an interesting way to look at it. South
I
Park.
agree. South Park. Man, I didn't think that could ever be referenced into something like that, but wow.
Who does not get?
Yeah.
Well, we're going to take just a short break here. We'll probably fill in some music here, and we'll be right back here. So don't you go away.
With the arms of the Great Mother ever surround me. With the arms of the Great Mother ever surround me. I invoke the protection of Divine Mother's embrace. I invoke the protection of Divine Mother's grace. With the arms of the Great Mother ever surround me. With the arms of the Great Mother ever surround me. I invoke the protection of Divine Mother's embrace. I invoke the protection of Divine Mother's grace. With the arms of the Great Mother ever surround me. With the arms of the Great Mother ever surround me. I invoke the protection of Divine Mother's embrace. I invoke the protection of Divine Mother's grace. With the arms of the Great Mother ever surround me. With the arms of the Great Mother ever surround me. I invoke the protection of Divine Mother's embrace. I invoke the protection of Divine Mother's grace. With the arms of the Great Mother ever surround me. With the arms of the Great Mother ever surround me. I invoke the protection of Divine Mother's embrace. I invoke the protection of Divine Mother's grace. With the arms of the Great Mother ever surround me. With the arms of the Great Mother ever surround me. I invoke the protection of Divine Mother's embrace. I invoke the protection of Divine Mother's grace. With the arms of the Great Mother ever surround me. With the arms of the Great Mother ever surround me. I invoke the protection of Divine Mother's embrace. I invoke the protection of Divine Mother's grace. With the arms of the Great Mother ever surround me. With the arms of the Great Mother ever surround me. I invoke the protection of Divine Mother's embrace. I invoke the protection of Divine Mother's grace. With the arms of the Great Mother ever surround me. With the arms of the Great Mother ever surround me. I invoke the protection of Divine Mother's embrace. I invoke the protection of Divine Mother's grace. With the arms of the Great Mother ever surround me. With the arms of the Great Mother ever surround me. I invoke the protection of Divine Mother's embrace. I invoke the protection of Divine Mother's grace. With the arms of the Great Mother ever surround me. With the arms of the Great Mother ever surround me.
And we're back. Thanks for the wait, everybody. Alright, well, now we're kind of getting to the point here that, for some advice for anybody out there. So, and this probably could go with any religion, I guess, but what advice, Tess, would you give for any pagans out there listening that, they're dealing with anyone that doesn't understand what it is to be pagan, or maybe any fears that they might have?
Agree to disagree and walk away. Remember that our viewpoint is exactly that. It's our viewpoint. Everyone's entitled to their own and have spent a lifetime developing their ideals. They're not going to understand easily, and quite frankly, it's not our job to proselytize. If someone wants to know more, I just usually tell them, we as neo-pagans, we attune ourselves to the agricultural and astrological wheel of the year. And if people want to know more, I usually suggest that they go to religionstolerance.org. It's a fantastic website and can help explain a lot of things. Yep. Better than I can, probably.
And I'll post a link in the description so that everyone will have that link available.
Excellent. I think it's a real mistake for us, and again, people, I'm speaking for myself, other pagans may feel differently, but I think that it's a mistake to refer to ourselves as pagans, because it's all about the image. When we say we are pagan, the Christian, Muslim, and Jewish communities reference what they know. And what they know is the ancient stories of the heathens who were lawless, had no moral conscience, murdered freely, and participated in human sacrifice. And that's what we're saying that we are. That's not who we are at all. But this is the only reference they know.
Yep.
I mean, let's face it. We took the best from the ancient religions, and we let the rest of all that go. We're not the same.
No.
We don't want to be known that way. Not really. But so if we associate ourselves as neo-pagans, we're saying that we're part of a Reconstruction religion that is exactly that. It's a reconstruction. It's not the same. And it's a less ambiguous way to say what we are without all of the negative connotations associated with it.
Yeah, and I go with also another religion, Hollywood. I mean, they've associated. I mean, one good example is, if you remember the movie of Dragnet, where that Tom Hanks and Dan Aykroyd was in.
Yeah.
And they had to spell a group that was called Pagans. And what were they doing? They were doing a sacrifice. I mean, that was really, Hollywood just blatantly trying to make their own point, almost.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It doesn't help our cause any, that's for sure.
Yeah.
No.
We are pagan, but we're doing it better than those who came before us, with more conscience and more moral fortitude. We're not the same as the pagans that the earth is known for centuries. They created their own bad name that we have the burden of trying to shake. And one way to do this is to refer to ourselves in a different manner. Quit calling ourselves pagans. We deserve to be known for our own hard work and the selfless acts that we do, and not to be confused for something that we're not. But at this point in time, we're doing it to ourselves, and we're making life more difficult than it needs to be just because we are calling ourselves pagans. We're going to do ourselves more justice to separate ourselves from it just a little bit, so that what people fear and loathe is something else other than what we are. And to say that I'm pagan, it is just simply easier. It is easier, and I catch myself saying it a lot, but it's not accurate by any means, and it really puts out a lot of undeserved fear. I mean, I remember telling my neighbor behind me, who was the mayor at the time of Granville, that I was pagan, and she literally started shaking, and I was like, oh, wait. So, keep an eye out for those cues when you're talking to people. You got people shaking. Some people are just curious. If you see somebody shaking in their boots, take the time to explain yourself.
What would be the best way then to try to soften the blow then?
Just let them know that it's a religion based on agricultural and astrological principles, and if it depends on what they're asking.
Because I guess, starting right from the forefront, instead of saying that I'm pagan, saying, like, because you can't say really I'm a witch, because then, of course, the first thing that's going to pop in their heads is, I'll get you my pretty.
I'm a neo-pagan.
Yeah.
I'm a neo-pagan, and it still has that pagan in there,
Mm-hmm.
but typically speaking, what I found is when you put neo-pagan, they're like, what the heck is that? So then I get the chance to say, it's just an earth-based religion, really.
Because I guess that's just, I guess what's ironic, because if memory serves me correct, the word pagan is Latin for he who owns the land, I think.
Yeah, and then other groups have defined it historically as country folk.
Country folk.
Mm-hmm. I've heard it say that way a lot. It was country folk.
It's something how the fact that it's just a simple definition of that is just taken as made such a dark turn of it, I guess.
The pagans were the rednecks of the time.
Yes.
You, sir, are trespassing on my mushroom farm. Well, anyway, as I'm trying to get that image of seeing a pagan with a cloak on a rocking chair on the front porch now in my head. Well, right now, of course, there's currently a separation between church and state. But what can any pagan do that's concerned of their own rights? That if they feel their rights are in danger, if they think they need to get equal rights or get their rights to be heard, what's the best thing they should do?
Take hold of the rights that you already have and stand up for them. This is the proper time for that soapbox that we were talking about earlier. If you're in the right and you are, sing it as loud and clear as you can. Just like Joy and that guy questioning, well, what have you done for your community? That's the time to stand up and say, hey, I am pagan and I love being pagan and this is what I do for my community, whatever the case may be. If you know you're in the right, stand up for it. Don't back away from it. If you have to, depending on the circumstances, involve the media.
Which
it's
we did.
always
Pagan Pride, first one in Fargo.
Woo!
Exactly. Anytime we get a chance to get our names out there in a positive light, it's a good thing. But when it comes to being, persecuted against, injustice is injustice, no matter what religion is being discriminated against. And you've got to stand up for yourself. There's a book, Pagans in the Law, Understand Your Rights, by Dana D. Eilers, she's an attorney and pagan activist. It's a great book for learning what you can do if you're being discriminated against and how to protect yourself as a pagan. And, that might be a really good one for you too, Thomas, to put a link to it on Amazon.
Okay, will do.
I strongly believe that every pagan out there should own and read a copy of this book. It's fantastic.
I will second that.
You have it too, Joy?
Oh, I don't have it, but a friend of ours that goes by the name Reverend Dave, he borrowed me his copy, and I really didn't want to give it back.
No wonder that book sounded familiar, because I remember him mentioning about that book.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
if you get a chance, read it, Thomas.
I will.
I borrowed it from a friend of mine, and I didn't want to give it back either. That's why I turned around and bought a copy of it. And it's not expensive.
No.
I think I paid like $4.95 for it.
Mm-hmm.
So now that we've told about what you've done in the community, what should pagans do in the community in general? Both ones in the alley open, both ones that are solitary. What should they do?
Do something, anything. Find something that touches your heart and volunteer your time. Don't wait or put it off anymore. If you need ideas for volunteering, if you just don't know what to do, call your city hall or go to a city council meeting. Volunteer your time for anything they need help with. Maybe it's mowing in the summer or shoveling the sidewalk in the winter. It could be anything. Maybe they have a position on the council that needs filled, as what happened in my case when I asked. Necessity is the mother of invention. So, don't be afraid to ask. But, for those that are more closet pagans, you can go out and clean up your local lake or stream or walking path, You can get involved in your food pantries. And depending on where you're at, homeless shelters. There's even Big Brother and Big Sister programs. There's an endless supply of ideas. But if you don't have any ideas, call your city hall. Go to a city council meeting. They don't get people that just walk into a meeting and volunteer their services every day. They're not likely to turn you down.
And it's funny you say that, too, because one of the major projects that we did in the Grove of the Old Ways is in Castleton. There's this Reservoir Park, and they've had a lot of share of trash, and so one day we decided to go out there as a gang and go out there and clean it up. And we had filled up 4 bags of trash. Some trash that I think must have been there for a long period of time on top of that. And so when we had our website for the Grove on there, we wrote a little article about the whole thing. Well, when we were talking about with our Cups chapter that we're forming here about some projects, we were thinking about doing that again. So when I went biking out there, I noticed that most of the time it's been pretty much clean. And one Sunday morning even, I was biking out there and I saw a guy out there actually picking up the trash. And so it makes me wonder if that maybe word of that article got to Castleton City Hall and they thought, uh-oh, we better get that part cleaned up. So it shows that you can make a difference.
Oh, you absolutely can. And, and if you're brave, wear your Pagan Pride shirt out there.
I do. I wear my Oopa shirt.
Exactly. Now, when I go to a city council meeting, I'm not going to wear a Pagan Pride shirt. Because I do believe that there should be a separation in religion and politics. I really, really do. You'll see a lot, like in the presidential campaigns and everything, about them going on and on about the candidates' religion. I think it's really uncalled for. It should be about whether or not they have the ability and the know-how to serve in their position. And it really shouldn't have any bearing on it. And they don't make an issue of my religion, so I don't want to make an issue of my religion. But the fact that I'm in that position and am able to influence the decisions in city government, that is a huge enough of a difference that I don't need to wear a shirt that says Pagan Pride.
Well, one such good example was the week following after Pagan Pride Day was when the Unitarian Universalist Church was in the Fargo Pride, the Gay Pride Parade. And I at the time they had these yellow T-shirts that says "Standing on the Side of Love." At the time, at the time I couldn't afford one. I didn't have the money for one, so I decided to wear my Pagan Pride Day because hey, it's a pride parade. Why not? So. And, of course, lo and behold, the local Fox News had a little report, and there we were at the very end in the parade. And, of course, we got the first prize trophy, too.
Nice.
Yep, for most, active group within the, gay community, friendly type people. We got, there's pictures of Thomas and I accepting the trophy for that. And at first they said how did they say that, Thomas?
They said it something like, and now the first place prize goes to the church in Minnesota with their yellow shirts. And I'm looking over at Sarah like, okay, who copied us?
Yeah, and I looked at Thomas and I'm like, who else has yellow shirts on?
And then they were like, oh, I'm sorry, it's the Unitarian Universalist Church of Fargo, North Dakota. And I was like, oh my God, we won! it was like realizing we won an Academy Award almost by accident,
That's awesome. I saw the photos, but I didn't know the behind the scenes story.
Oh, we were talking about that for days.
But
that's neat.
But
that's exciting.
But at the very end of the Fox News little report about the whole thing, because they were interviewing a whole bunch of people. But the last few seconds, you saw the start of our holding the banner. You see me and Sarah helping hold that banner of universal marriage, and it was something really.
Well, maybe someday the world will see us all as people, and regardless of religion or sexual orientation or gender assignment. We'll just be seen as people with a right to live.
Yep.
Well,
and a right to live our lives the way we want.
Well, Charles Xavier, in the X-Men comics, they always thought that there should be unity, between the mutants and humans. Hey, same thing with us, that we can be recognized and understood.
Yeah. Prejudice is prejudice, no matter what label you put on it.
Yep.
So, as a whole, we're making a difference. And if every person just keeps doing their part, the world will continue to be a better place every single day, one day at a time. Whatever you do to take action in your heart in the name of... Let me restate that. Whatever you do, take action in your heart in the name of the Lord and the Lady. And hold your head high, knowing that you're doing good because it needed to be done. What more could any deity ask for? Or anyone?
Exactly, and I think...
Well said,
very well said. And I think the Lord and Lady would be proud, for what we've done. I mean, just think of it, like in the past, I would say, like past year, even.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they're online with the Facebook Fargo Pagan Pride. Some people that were members kind of gave me flack for the interview that I gave at our first Pagan Pride. And I just came right out there and, pointed out the elephant in the room and named it and kind of took care of it, about us being people that do not believe in Satanism. We're not Satanists. We don't do sacrificing of animals. And I caught so much flack for that. I mean, Thomas was one of the people online, and a few of our other pagan friends, and some non-pagan friends were, shooting back at other people that were, trying to shoot me down for that, because I'm like, look, you know what? I just put it out there, and, it started conversations with people that we didn't even know until Thomas and I went down to the Minneapolis Pagan Pride.
I was just about to bring that up. Yeah, what was her name?
Tisha. She is one of the co-owners of Sacred Paths down in St. Paul. Her family would never speak to her in all of the years that she's been practicing neo-paganism, and they never spoke about it until her parents were from Fergus Falls. They seen our little blurb on the Valley News, I think it was.
WDAY.
Okay, WDAY. And then they called her up after they seen, the interview with me and a few other people from the Pagan Pride Day event. And they started talking and opening communication between them about being neo-pagan and what it's all about.
That is amazing.
No kidding.
I was like, wow.
That is an incredible story of the positive ripple effect.
Mm-hmm.
That getting out there and doing something good, doing the right thing because you know it's the right thing to do, what kind of an effect that has on our community. And, if you don't mind me asking, Joy, what were they giving you a hard time about? I saw that interview. There was nothing
because of the stuff that I said in there. Because I called the elephant out of the room. In the room. The community here, there are a lot of us that don't mind being out of the broom closet. We don't mind if somebody comes up and asks questions, and we don't act like it's a shame to be pagan. And there's some out there that, they're all about the wow factor, getting as much shock out of somebody as they can and saying that they're pagan. And
the mystery religion.
Right. Well, not the Hollywood version of it.
Yeah.
Like, oh my God, they're pagan. Oh my God, I should watch out for them. Are they going to put a spell on me? That kind of stuff. And I went out there and went in front of the media. I pointed things out, and I said, if you want more information, come to our webpage. Ask questions to people that are on our Facebook page. Go research it. I said there's many, things out there that are things online that you can, like the religious one that you talked about, I've went to that one and I've seen some of the stuff that they have on all different types of beliefs, and I was just like,
Tolerance.org.
yes, and I'm like, it's not a big deal. We're just everyday people believing in the earth is what it basically comes down to. And it was interesting because the guy doing the interview, he was just like, wow, that's so cool. And the little bit of literature that we had, we gave all of the literature that we had to him to take back with him.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
interesting.
And
did you ever hear back from him again?
I haven't heard back from him, but I mean, he could have taken that interview so many different ways that would not have looked favorably on us.
Oh, so true. They gave you, that was something I said to my husband at the time. The TV station really gave some good coverage for that. They really did.
And last time I looked, it's that video has had 450 hits. It's, according to the stats, it has been seen, in the United States and some parts of Europe. So we have gotten our word out in more ways than one. And like I said in the first issue, I am just still amazed how wonderful it went, and still, and even more so how we're going to top it next year. That's all I can say.
And yeah, and just to put, a small little plug, if there's anybody in the Fargo-Moorhead area radius that wants to help volunteer for next year, we are more than happy to have volunteers. So hit us up, let us know, and we'll be seeing maybe Tess there sometime.
Oh gosh, I so hope so. I so want to come. I will be there as soon as I can. It might, hopefully it'll be this year, but if not this year, maybe next year. Know how it goes.
Well, once we get a date officiated, then, I think that should help you out.
Yeah.
Something we haven't talked about in all of this, community service and getting the pagan name out there in a positive light is burnout.
Yeah.
You have people that are willing to get out there and put themselves out there and put themselves in a position to be really chastised. And we really do get chastised.
If you could see me, I'm raising my hand.
Yeah.
We do. We take a lot of flack for being out there doing the best we can. And it's not too bad, though. It really isn't too bad. But that's not to say that you don't get tired of being the one to put all that energy out there. So, if there's anyone that just, has always been, thought about getting out there and getting more active in their community, reach out to these groups that are around you, because they're all, it's not just city councils that aren't going to turn you away if you volunteer your help.
Right.
Yeah.
And if
these groups are going to be more than happy to accept help and to give you something that would make you feel extraordinary about what you're doing.
And if you're still somewhat in the broom closet or seriously in the broom closet, we still have things that people can volunteer for where they don't have to be out in the media. Or, they can, we need help in all areas to make, I hate to say it, to top the first one that we did. And we did it with like 4 to 5 major people planning it within, we thought it was 4 months, but in all reality, it was 2.5 months. We planned that bad boy and rocked it out.
And the biggest thing was, and it was kind of my dream, is that we got 3 groups to work together.
Yeah.
The Forming Cups chapter, Witchy Wednesday, and the Legacy Pagan Meetup.
Mm-hmm.
That was amazing, because it's really hard to get pagans to all come together, and to get them all to come together for a cause like that was incredible.
It's like what Sarah put it best once. It's like trying to get pagans to work together is trying to get cats to work together. Well, quite frankly, that day we had a whole bunch of Marty cats working together.
Mm-hmm.
Here's an idea for you to get even the outside community even more involved in it. If you could partner up with let's say the Domestic Violence Center, or something, an organization like that, to also, utilize the event to help raise funds for this other charity.
Right.
That might help.
We did a non-perishable item drive. That was the main thing for ours last year, and we ended up with 3 containers, like the blue plastic containers of food. There was 2 containers, and then the third container was all toilet paper, toiletries, and that kind of stuff. So, and it all got donated to the WYMCA, I think it is, the women's shelter.
Yeah.
Or YWMCA. Yeah, and because they have a women's shelter, for, domestic, abuse. So I made a list on the Facebook page of what was needed for that, and a lot of people brought stuff that was on that list. And when I brought the stuff in and I told them, who was donating it, they were like, "Wow, this is so awesome! A lot of the women can use these things." And I'm like, "Well, we're holding this every year, so if you guys want us to contact you, so that we can find out what exactly is needed, we'll do that." And they were like, "Yeah, keep us in mind. And if any women want to come and help volunteer at the shelter, they're more than we're more than willing to have whoever to come and help volunteer." So I was like, "All right, let me know." And the few times that I did call, they had enough volunteers. So I'm just waiting for my turn to actually be able to go over there and help, because domestic abuse and stuff like that is something that sits really close to my heart. I don't like seeing that kind of stuff. And, if I can help in any way like that, because I've seen some of the stuff that can, people, especially women, and it's not so much the women. To me, that what it gets me is the children. It's like our society doesn't realize how the long-term effects that kind of stuff has on children.
Yeah, those scars run deep.
Yep.
They do. That's incredible. I didn't, I guess I didn't take that away from the news coverage that I watched. I don't recall that being.
We didn't know how much stuff we had until I gathered it and counted it out, because being part of the Pagan Pride organization, national organization, you have to log all that. And so that's when I found out what we had and how much of stuff. So my plan is for next year is to double what we had.
Yeah.
Oh, no kidding.
Well, so we can, not only do the women's shelter, but also bring it over to the food bank. We want to get more and more so that we can, whatever we have donated, we can spread it out throughout the community.
And one thing also is to have at least maybe also a donation jar that people can put money to, because one other thing I also like to do is help also with the pet community.
Yes.
Because especially with my cat Marty, being that he was initially a stray cat that just missed the date of being executed by one day if it wasn't for feline rescue down in the Twin Cities. I know there's got to be a lot of other, fortunate, cats and dogs, that can be helped out.
Yep.
Yeah, definitely. When we're done here, I may have some other ideas that may help with your Pagan Pride event and getting the word out there a little bit more, but we're probably going to bore people at this point with it.
But yeah, that's pretty much the gist of it. Is there anything else that you guys want to contribute then?
I'm just glad to be able to get together with you and Tess and be able to bounce things around and hear, some background from Tess, because I've always wondered, where you, not originated, but where you came from to get to North Dakota. And I knew a little bit of stuff from Thomas, and I was like, "Oh, you want me to join in? Yes, I'm there, dude."
Well,
I inhaled that taco in a bag, believe me.
I'm thankful that you were able to fill in, and I know Grant's probably thankful too when he probably hears this too, and probably will say thank you, Joy.
Anytime.
Well, thanks for having me on. And did I answer your questions, Joy, about where I came from and how I got into paganism?
Yes, I mean it was a fascinating story, and believe me, I will be asking more questions on my own. And so I'm like, wow, awesome, to find out, how you grew up in it and went on from there. I'm just like, oh, cool. Somebody else that, that I know that has grown up in it. And it's always interesting to hear how people have gotten on to the neo-paganism or Wicca path. I've always been interested in listening to, fellow neo-pagans or pagans, whatever you want to call it, earth-based religion people, of how they got onto the path that they did. It's one of those things that the stories just always fascinate me.
It was really strange growing up because I didn't feel like I fit in. I didn't feel like I belonged, and I really didn't fit in anywhere, and I really didn't belong anywhere, and I had no culture or heritage to grab hold of, and it was, there was no going to church with the family or synagogue, and there was no that cultural background wasn't there, and I could never figure out, why am I so different, and I know a lot of other people have felt that way too. And they say that it is quite common with people who are second and third generation off of the reservation because they've lost their identity.
Yep.
And so as an adult to finally find it and reclaim my roots has been really empowering, but at the same time, it's also disheartening because you still don't fit in because you're not accepted by the culture that you came from.
Yep.
Because you've left it.
It's kind of amazing how destiny works, how it does. Sometimes you just think it's, you're not part of it then, but then you find out you're the greater piece of the wheel.
Yep.
And as neo-pagans, we create our own path.
Yep.
That's right.
And I don't see too many neo-pagans, the ones that are actually out there, like Selena Fox, they don't take the easy way. They take the way that's probably the hardest and trudge their way through it and say, all right, if you guys want to follow, hey, come on, let's go, let's do this.
It reminds me of the old model that my high school graduation class had, is that, that when you're going through the forest, you don't follow the tread, you make your own path and leave a trail.
Yep. So it's been wonderful. Thanks so much for having me on.
No problem, Tess, there. And just to kind of conclude, it's kind of, we do like a little tradition with these episodes. We'll tell about the upcoming things here that's going on. The Saturday Lake Agassiz Meetup is having their monthly drumming circle. It's over at Crystal and Doug's house in Fargo. I'm planning to record that as hopefully a start of a drumming circle series. And then in December, we'll probably do an episode here about Yule. And then on December 25th, we will be having a Yule service at the Unitarian Universalist Church in Fargo, North Dakota. Yay! Kind of an interesting one that, because we had our Beltane service that we had there, which did very well, and hopefully we can do that again. So,
also at the Unitarian Universalist Church, the Sunday, the December 11th, we have drumming scheduled from 1:30 to 3:30. So if anybody in the Fargo-Moorhead area radius wants to come and do some drumming, then we're going to. Thomas, are you going to be there? I shouldn't say Thomas and I unless you're going to be there.
I'm pretty sure I will unless the weather punches me or something.
Right. Somebody will be there at the church if people want to do drumming, and there's my little plug. Well then, on behalf of the Great Northern Pagan Podcast here, this is Thomas Punton. And, go ahead, tag, you're it.
Tag, you're it. Tess?
What?
We're signing
We're
off.
signing off.
Oh. I didn't realize I was supposed to ring in on this.
Yeah.
Bye, everybody.
And
Bye.
and may you have also a wonderful Thanksgiving next week too. So, mere meat and blessed be.
Blessed be.
Blessed be.